So, what was my first problem, the first hiccup that I arrived to because of biocoding this app? Well, first of all, what I made was a journal with journal entries, list, decision, goals, a my day feature. It took me about 3 days. And at the beginning, I just prompted like the hell out of it, and it rendered a usable app full with bugs. And when I started using it and trying to and debugging it, I just made a decision that it was better to erase it, and that's what I did. I erased it. Then I started doing it just module by module with just little batches of code, which I went over and understood them and debugged them while I was doing it. That took about 7 days to build, another 7 days to actually debug the whole thing. So 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, maybe a month from the beginning to the end, fully debugged and fully functional. So why does AI fail as vibe coding? And why those engines like Cursor, Replit, Lovable will render what I call useful mockups or prototypes, but not full apps. And when you try to make them with a backend, absolutely just demos of apps basically. Well, because of hallucination. And to understand hallucination, we need to understand a little bit how these LLM models actually work and how they mimic learning, but they are actually not learning. So I'll bring the point home, and I'll take a sideline here, but I'll bring the point home. So follow me. In nature, there are basically two ways of learning. One is inherent learning, inherit information, basically, which like insects do, and they inherit instincts. Basically, a grasshopper is born learning how to be a grasshopper, and it will die with its mission of life encoded in its DNA, right? It doesn't learn anything. So reality is given to it by the information that its mother passes through its DNA. It doesn't learn anything at all through its life. All information needed to define reality is given to them. On the other spectrum of that, we have humans. And of course, mammals do it in different levels, but humans is like the other side of that spectrum. We are born with very little instincts. We learn through associative experiences. Our brains doesn't have a clock to tell them what's past, present, and future. We define that by making relationships of memories that give the brain a sense of past, present, and future. And then through our levels of how our brain is connected, you process that information and you generate a reality that is measured against your experience. You make mistakes, you suffer, and that alters what you represent in your brain as reality. And it's a cycle. It's a cycle that keeps running, right? And that's why, for example, you're gonna have twins in a household exposed to family violence, and one of the twins will become a wife beater, and the other twin would become a defender of women rights and never hit a woman. Even though they're exposed to the same information, the process in their brain changes because of how the brain is wired and how those levels of instinct and all the things that go in the brain affect the processing of that information and how they learn through experience and creates reality in its brain. How do AI learn? AI doesn't learn, it mimics learning. Basically, it acts like an insect. It is given information, in this case by humans, and it actually doesn't learn anything. What it does is that it uses algorithmic probabilistic guessing, and it guesses through all the information that it has what it needs to respond. So when you're prompting it or when you're asking it solutions for problems, it is not even accessing the problem itself. It doesn't understand it. It has no logic behind it. What it does, it goes through a probabilistic word by word, sentence by sentence scenario, and then it gives up answers based on that, on what make sense on a probabilistic way. So what's the problem with that? Okay, going back to the insect scenario, if you could like enter the brain of a grasshopper and you could inject information of a cockroach, you wouldn't end up with a grasshopper that knows about cockroaches. You will end up with a grasshopper that thinks that it's a cockroach. Reality has resetted itself because of how the brain works. Their brain doesn't acquire experiences and new information through learning and experience. It acquires reality with the information that it already has there. The same happens with AI. it defines reality with the information that it already has because it's not learning, it's just acquiring information. So when you ask something and it starts giving answers, it starts fitting itself new information. And that defines reality for that AI, meaning that it's not defining reality, but it defines the pool of statistical information that it has. Basically, it's self-feeding cycle. And since that reality is defined by that, those answers, which may not be true, start altering reality and thus hallucinates. That what's created a hallucination. And you can try yourself. I mean, you can ask any AI engine to, you can give it a plot or like a structure with characters for a story and ask him to build a script with 2,000 words, and then ask him to expand that script to 9,000 words, and you would clearly see how it mixed up the arc of the story, the characters, and starts making things up that doesn't make sense because it has feed itself with the information that now creates a new reality for it, understanding that reality is just new information that it takes to use it in its statistical formulas to generate answers. So basically, it's not understanding neither the story nor the answers that it's giving you. It's just making them up with statistical formulas. When you traduce that to, when you translate that to code, again, the engine doesn't understand neither the problem that you're trying to solve nor the code that it's given to you. Again, it's just gathering information in a probabilistic sense and spitting out code that it already exists, that it has seen, and that it matches with the probability of what you want, the probability of the words that you want. See, so it's making a match between words and probabilities with an outcome that's more related to that word that you're giving it. In no way, sense, or capacity, it's actually learning or thinking or producing any logic. So an AI doesn't hold, it doesn't have the capacity to hold a context in which you're asking any question. In essence, it becomes like evil, like an evil genie, right? If you ask the proverbial evil genie, make me rich, it might turn you into a statue and just kill you, your statue of gold. It made you rich, right, in a sense, but it was out of context, right, out of human context of what a human defines as being rich. And that's basically what happens with the AI when it's generating code. It loses context. It's giving you code, but eventually and very fast, and the more complicated your software where you're trying to build is, the faster that it will lose context and start hallucinating. Now, the problem with these hallucinations is that at the beginning, it might create functional code, but it would not be sustainable either in the structure, the security, or the volume of transactions that it needs to handle, or even the fact that it's doing the things that you wish to do, but in a very wrong way, which in code matters a lot. So that's basically what I experienced, what I hit immediately with vibe coding. That's a problem that is very evident, and it's not going to be solvable in the near future. And I think that the greatest tragedy that AI is inflicting in humanity is it's portraying this belief that you don't need computer science engineers anymore. I'm not one of them. I'm a self-taught coder, but you actually need computer science engineers. And AI is creating this false sense that even coding is not needed. The knowledge of coding is not needed. And AI works wonderful as a tool for somebody that knows how to code. But at the end, I think that it's still at this moment a scam for people, scam to that they sell to people, trying to make them think that you can actually build a fully SaaS product, let's say like accounting system, like an accounting system or a financial system or whatever that, and the next Instagram or Facebook kind of applications, which are impossible to build right now with the current state of technology because of all the things that I already explained, right? The hallucination part. It might try, but then you will end up with such a mess of a code that you'll you will need to hire a developer, and that developer will delete the code and make it from zero up. It will be cheaper and faster. So that's the state of things. It's a great tool. You need to learn. I've been learning through this journey Swift, which is the language that I don't know anything about, but I've used it to build this app. But even in building this app, I actually had to start learning things to make it work properly. So yes, I wanted to share that, and hope that you start your journey making apps just like me and trying to learn code as fast as you can using these wonderful applications like AI that can do it. But you cannot be lazy with it, because then you will not produce anything valuable. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.